Today's session is all about psychology and report design and how to make it easier for your users to understand the reports that you build.
So yeah, as Sue says, I do talk about psychology and report design. Um, there's quite a number of sessions. I'm always adding to it because there's always something new to learn about how your brain works. So first of all, hopefully you can all hear me. And secondly,
Yep.
there is an interactive part. So if you want to take your microphones off at a certain point, I'll tell you when, and you can shout at me, and it's hopefully be quite engaging. Um, the I did a variant of this session at SQL Bits in 2023, and I've added a couple of new things as there's always something new to learn. So, all right, if I can just hopefully it stops. There you go. Right, so who am I? Yeah, my name's John Lunn. I'm a lead consultant in data engineering at Laminar Project. I've got GitHub with some Power BI and some data engineering stuff on there. I do blog occasionally, LinkedIn, Mr. John Lunn, and you can email me, contact me at john@mrjohnlunn.com. No H in my name, just JONLUNN. If you see there on the bottom right, I'm also involved with Data Relay, I'm one of the organisers. So it's a 5-day touring conference, free to attend. We're doing Newcastle, Leeds, Birmingham, my one, Bristol and Southampton this year. Last year we did Reading and Leeds and somewhere else, I can't remember. We did the National Museum of Computing, which is a really great place to go.
Bletchley Park.
Bletchley Park, yes.
Park,
yes.
John.
All the old computers where everyone all day just went going around. People of a certain age just went, oh my God, I remember that. Or, oh, I used to have that. That's all you heard all day off people. Registration is about to open. Our call for speakers is closed and our sponsor sign up is open. But I think it's free to attend. Come along. We've got about 18 speakers. It's great if you're near the area where you can come along. The registration should be open. Just keep an eye on LinkedIn. We'll be advertising it heavily. But cool. Right. So even though I'm involved with quite a lot of data engineering, I did quite a lot of Power BI a few years ago. I was a subject matter expert for Power BI at Rico Digital Services. I used to go out and do training. It was always interesting to see what people came up with, give them the training, get their hands on the data, and then a couple of weeks later, I'll come back for a kind of review session saying, hey, how are you guys doing? And then the sort of visuals and charts that they'd use would be quite, for me, quite disturbing. Not just the way they show the data, but the way they think it should be shown, and also some of the colours. Is lime green a particularly good choice? I read a few books just to sort of get up to speed and sort of teach people how best to present the data, because in the data engineering part, it's great. You can do all these really cool transformations, bring data lakes, bring all the data into somewhere, do all the really cool stuff. But your report is the tip of the iceberg, and it should be the sharpest point because that's all the user going to see. So I was always very interested in how to effectively show the information. So there's a couple of good books out there if anyone wants to look at the subject. There's two, Show Me the Numbers by Stephen Few. Stephen Few also wrote a book called Information Dashboard Design, a great level of how to present data and some of the considerations about it. He also designed the bullet graph or bullet chart. He ended up working for Tableau as well for a while. Another one, which is Cole Knafleck, Storytelling with Data. She goes through quite a lot of the same things as Stephen Few does, but it's a bit more accessible. And the third book, which a lot of this stuff is based on, is Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. And you'll see, if you look close at the screen, he won a Nobel Prize. He's a psychologist that won a Nobel Prize in economics because he understood the way that it changed the understanding of how we sort of understand risk. And in economics, you need to understand risk and some of the conceptualizations that we tend to have a bias for. And it's a fascinating book. It really is. You can go through the book. It's very accessible. And it goes through not just on the risk part, but it goes through all of the bits of how your brain works. And it's absolutely fascinating because you'll go through some of the examples and it'll be like, oh, it's obviously answer A. Then it'll say it's answer B, and it'll show exactly why you were wrong and where the biases crept in. Danny Kahneman actually died, I think last month at the age of 90, for his impact on psychology and economics and a few other things, book design as well, has been amazing. So I do recommend that book. And I say in Show Me the Numbers and Storytelling with Data, they do talk a little bit about the psychology, but it's very kind of fluffy. Whereas I'm taking a step back and showing you exactly how the process works, because there's a lot of sessions out saying this is intuitive or this is attentive and this is easy to understand, but it doesn't exactly explain why. There's a little bit of fluff. I think this is from Cole's book, about how your eye stimulus and you have like short-term ionic memory, short-term memory perception, but it's a lot simpler than that. And the examples I give you will hopefully show that. Now, if you want to take your microphones off, this is the interactive bit. Okay, so I'm going to show you a couple of pictures, and I just want you to say what you can see. Okay.
Ooh, exciting.
It is.
Yes, exciting. I like this.
If you've seen this before, please don't ruin it for people. But it's really good. Okay, so I'm going to go through what is attentive and what is intuitive, and a couple of those concepts like cognitive burden and how you relate to data. So it's very much not about the technology, but about the process. I want you to think about how you're going to approach designing visualizations and presenting data going forward. Okay, right. Okay, this one, I'll give you this one. This person is happy. Yeah, cool. Happy. Right, okay. Okay, again, if you want to join in, not worry. Okay, next one. This person is. Any takers? Anybody else means? Yeah, this person is sad. Brilliant.
Sad. Come on, people.
He's really upset. Okay. This person is
happy.
Happy. Yeah. Cool. This one's slightly different. Just shout out what you see. Okay. This person is
furious.
Angry. He's absolutely
furious.
He told me to give him his shirt back after taking his photograph. So okay. Okay. Again, next one. This baby is
puzzled.
That's a good one. I've never heard puzzled before. This baby's sad. It's had a little baby. I literally took the candy off him to test this.
Did anyone else put their bottom lip out at the same time as well? Because I know I did.
Okay, this one's slightly different again. Just shout out the answer when you get it.
Oh, 27. 127.
127.
Well done, thank you. That's pretty quick. 127. So what happened there was I switched it from an intuitive process, facial recognition, something we've done all of our lives. We can understand the emotional context of people's expressions. Then I switched you to an attentive process where you had to physically stop and work something out. Now, I do talk about cognitive burden, and that's the amount of brain power you have to put in to work something out. So I could have reduced the cognitive burden on that attentive bit by just reordering a couple of things, would have made it a bit easier, a bit quicker to understand. One of the biggest killers in the last few years, well, it's been more than a few years, thinking about it, of cognitive burden was Windows 8. Now, we had Windows 3.1, and then they changed to the start menu in 95, and then we went all the way to Windows 7. Then suddenly the interface changed, and that kind of inbuilt knowledge that we had of how to operate through the menus, start, control panel, remote desktop, all the little things you were very familiar with, just went. And so it was a massive killer in the cognitive process. And then we had to readjust to it. And then thankfully they realized it was such a slap in the face for you. And then readjusted it for Windows 10 and so we got the start menu back effectively. So cognitive burden is the amount of brain process you have to put in. But as I switched you from an intuitive process, facial recognition, to actually working something out. So that's the two main differences. Now, the intuitive system, it's called System 1 in the literature, is a lower mental effort. It's automatic, it's effortless, you just go straight away. So facial recognition, understanding some various things is all intuitive. The attentive, System 2, is where you have to put mental effort in. So when I switched from the face to that equation, two things happened. One, all your heart rate's slightly increased. And two, for people who are working it out, your pupil dilated. Daniel Kahneman in his book talks about pupil dilation and its relation to mental effort. And you can do tests. You can get like a little camera that's watching people work something out. You can see the pupil dilate. It can tell when people are giving up to working something out. It's fascinating. But there are physical responses. And if you're in system 2 for quite a while, your glucose levels drop, your heart rate increases and continues to that. So also with the attentive, you have the attentive flow. So it's basically you're operating a higher mental state, you're working through things. And that's where it comes in. If you get interrupted, it can take 15, 20 minutes for you to get back into that flow state. So that's some of the things you need to consider about the attentive intuitive. Now, I'm not saying that one is better than the other. I'm saying is where do we want to target it? So effectively, how do you make something intuitive? Brilliant. We can add in colors or remove colors. We can remove distractions. We can put all these little tips and tricks we probably see from other people speaking about report design about how to make something a bit more intuitive. And the attentive, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I say it's some people say, "Oh, why do you think attentive is bad?" It's not. Just focus it where you need to, because some things going to need to be easy to understandable, and some things you will have to think about. So, like on the right there, you have everyday decisions. Oh, I'd have that sandwich. Complex decisions. What sort of mortgage do I need to? What do I need to relate to? What interest rates? Okay, right, fine. Is this the best offer for me? Now, system 1 can be very error prone. And system 2, because you actually have to stop and think about stuff, is quite reliable. And one of the best examples is the question about a bat and a ball cost £1, 5 pence. The bat costs £1 more than the ball. How much is the ball? And then people, instantly think, oh, it's. I think I might have actually given the slightly wrong. Oh, it's 10 pence. Wrong. Or is it 5 pence and it's 10 pence? Can't remember. Anyway, I've messed that up. But it's one of the question you think is easy understandable, and 50% of Harvard graduates used to get it wrong in economics. So you can understand where the financial crisis came from. The people weren't finding picking those and understanding, because it's just all very intuitive kind of puzzle. Anyway, sorry, apart from that little diversion where I completely fluffed it, please enter it later. So system 1, all you need to understand is fast. System 2 is slow. System 1 is unconscious. It's quick. And system 2, you actually have to think about it. Okay, I'm going to go through a couple of things about psychology. So you don't have to shout this bit out. But has anyone been to the opticians recently? If you have, you might have had a little dot test where you've had to look into something and count the dots. This is a sort of similar thing, and I'll tell you why they only show you a certain amount of dots. So, right, I've not done this remotely before, so this is something new. So another thing about your mental process and the kind of intuitive part is how quickly can you count something. And I always get this, so it's subitizing, they call it. And it's literally how quickly can your brain count something and where the errors can come in. So, right, are you ready? How many dots did you say?
3.
3, yeah, okay. That's correct. Okay, next lot is how many dots do you see?
7.
6. 7.
7.
7.
Okay. Now, your brain can quickly count up to about 4 or 5. It can look at 5 objects and instantly think of, after about 5, it starts to break down. So that's what this process is. It's a very quick, intuitive process to rapidly count something. But we can also give it a bit of a short circuit, make it a bit quicker by using something that we're very familiar with, something that was an attentive process, it became an intuitive process. Okay, right. So again, can you count the dots?
7.
7. So
Dice.
What happened there? Yeah, dice patterns. It's on another slide, but I will ask you, when was the last time you counted the dots on a dice? You don't count the dots, you count the pattern, you look at the pattern.
Yeah.
So at some point, you went from counting it to understanding the pattern. It's very interesting if you've got young children. I watch my kids when about 2, 3 they stop, pick up the dice and count it. And the point they sort of flipped over to just recognising the pattern was quite fascinating to see. So I'm going to talk about that. So how do you use that in your report design? So if you're showing something like the last 3 months, it's something you can quickly perceive and visualize and understand very quickly. You're looking at three on the left, you're looking at three columns. You can quickly understand and see the difference between the two a lot quicker than you can understand the one on the right where it's 12 columns. So do you need to show all the data, or can you just show a subset of the data? Because you can quickly understand it and look at the variances between it, and it's boom, that's a very intuitive, quick sort of understanding of it. Whereas obviously putting more things, you can be very intuitive, a nice little line graph or something like that. It can be very intuitive to follow the line, or look at the difference between the bars or columns. But yeah, it adds a little bit of cognitive burden. So the sales by month on the right is an intuitive kind of it's an intuitive chart, because your brain can quickly work out the differences. It may take a couple of seconds to scan it, but you're not thinking particularly complex thoughts about it. You're looking at the shape. Your eye can quickly see the highest value. Your eye can quickly see the lowest value. There's nothing really there to sort of concentrate on. Your brain can see the pattern. Your brain is essentially making, filling in all the blank parts for you. It's very strange how you understand the shape. Yeah. Next one. Okay. So abstract numbers. You can think, what is an abstract number? How is it something that's beyond our understanding? What can you visualize? Now we all estimate our visualization and how many things we can close our eyes and just think of. Can we visualize 1 million? Probably not. But it breaks down around about, well, I'll say about 15. So try and visualize 15 dots. Again, tip, use dice patterns. If you close your eyes and try and imagine a dot, and another dot, and another dot, and another dot. So mentally, your process sort of breaks down around between 15, 20. So anything after 20 is a bit abstract for your brain to sort of conceptualize. And when we talk about percentages, which is also one of the great sort of misleaders of a very abstract number for your consciousness to understand, of trying to imagine 100 of something. I mean, it's easy to imagine 50%. It's just too hard. So 25%, 15%. It's slightly more difficult. So how can you relate to that? When's the point does it become abstract? And it's a lot lower point than a lot of people think or even understand. They can probably think, oh yeah, I can close my eyes and visualize 100 candles or 100 cars or something like that, but it's a lot lower. So your brain has a literally finite amount of processing power to understand and relate to visualize numbers. That's where the subthing comes in, because you can quickly count things. But then to actually stop and visualize something using an attentive process, to close your eyes and stop and think of something, it does break down after around 15. It's very fascinating. Okay. Again, as I mentioned earlier, when do you stop counting the dots as a child and start recognizing the pattern? So you could probably close your eyes and think of 3 clusters of 5 dots in a dice pattern. So you can also
dominoes.
Yeah, like dominoes. That's already good. Yeah. So dice pattern dominoes. Yeah. When do you start breaking it down? Okay. I missed out one thing. So talking about intuitive versus attentive, there's something that's probably very common where these attentive things become intuitive. So can anyone think of a particularly process that was at the start very attentive but now is intuitive?
Driving.
Yeah. So how much do you think about pulling off your drive these days? How much do you think about getting in, putting your seatbelt on, driving, and away you go? So there's a lot of things you can do where something in system 2 becomes system 1. Something becomes attentive and something then becomes intuitive. Right. So talking of abstract numbers, so how do you relate to them? How do you understand them? Well, it's a little kind of thing. There's 2 main methods we can understand and relate to. One is percentages. So it's essentially something how likely. And we're talking about ratio. Ratios are how many. Now, if you look at say media news, advertisements. 1 in so many people will get a disease, or 1 in 10 will have something. So it's very relatable because you instantly put yourself into the place of 1. Yeah. So you are that 1 in. Oh no! If I go to the doctor, I think it's a 1 in 10 chance you get it, Mr. Learn. I'll be like, yeah, I'm that 1. I'll always beat the odds. I'll be that 1. Whereas whereas percentages are a bit abstract. As I say, the kind of, you're trying to consider something out of 100 to some degree. It's easy for abstract numbers, percentages that we can easily understand, like 50% or 33%, 25%. But it also breaks down around the 10 and 5%. You just see the small number and think, 5% is nothing to worry about. Okay, so if you can move your report to a ratio, or display something in there, or you're talking about something to a ratio, it's a lot more effective for people to relate to. Now, if you're comparing something, you wouldn't use a ratio, you use a percentage. So if you're looking at credit card interest or cash back or all those sorts of things, comparing the values of percentages is fine. You can see that one's at 10%, one's at 15%. Maybe you want to take the interest rate that's 10%. You'll save more money. Whereas ratios do sort of put you in the place of understanding a bit better. So there's some evidence to say that there's some parts manufacturers that switched from parts failure rate in a percentage and they moved it to a ratio. And all of a sudden, people started acting on the information a bit better because they could visualize and effectively relate to it. So, oh man, a part rate, it's 10%. I thought that was a really low number. It's 1 in 10. You can visualize that 1 in 10 of your parts is breaking or something, or not going under quality control, and then there's a lot more management attention on it, and they got that part rate down. So you can see 1 in 20 is a lot better than 1 in 10 pretty much straight away. But 5%, 10%, it's only like 5. It's only a little bit more or less. So yeah, so there's understanding the frequency format. I've been trying to get a nice Power BI format and bringing it down into a ratio, display it as a ratio, and then find the nearest 10 or 5. I still haven't quite practiced. Neither is ChatGPT, to be fair. So, but you can, you have level of power. You can also mislead people. So, as I said earlier, that your intuitive system 1 can be prone to errors and bias. So, actually, I've read this from some of the literature. Everyone I've asked this question of normally gets it right. So which is worse? A disease that kills 1,296 people out of every 10,000, or a disease that kills 24% of the population? And most people twig that it's the first one. Sorry, the second one is worse. The first one is the lesser of the 2 evils. But you can see where you can sort of mislead people with a low percentage. You might think, it's only a small number. But when you start relating it to a ratio of 1,200 people out of 10,000, you sort of understand it a bit better. In the test case where they use this and they ask people, 80% of the people picked the first one to say it's the worst of the 2 options. Again, the percentage sort of was slightly too abstract. They didn't make the association of it's a quarter. They couldn't relate to 2,500 people out of every 10,000. They didn't calculate it. They didn't work on it. It was very, very intuitive thing to say, it's 24%, that's easier. Also, there's quite a lot of anecdotal evidence, like in America, of defense and prosecution lawyers. So a defense lawyer will say, we use ratios. So DNA will force and match, 1 in 1,000 cases of capital crime cases. And because people can relate to that 1 in 1,000, because the abstraction breaks down when you try and visualize 1,000. But if you start using percentages, 0.1%, people can't quite. They know it's a low number, they know it's a small number, but 1 in 1,000 is a lot more powerful. Why can't it be this person? What could he be? Could 999 trials have been okay, and this one person is being falsely accused? I know probably doesn't work like that, but it's that sort of idea that comes into your brain. So yeah, some really, really interesting cases where you'll see, if you want to hide something, you'll use a percentage. But if you want to relate to people, they'll use a ratio. Right. Okay. Oh, I love this. I love this. Anyone recognise the advert?
I am that old that I do.
So in the terms of abstract numbers and the terms of ratios, moving to this ratio, what's the best ratio to use? Now, this is the Whiskas cat food from the 70s and 80s, where they'd say 8 out of 10 owners said their cats preferred it. But that's the same as 4 out of 5 cats preferring it, or 80% of cats preferring it. So it scans a bit better because 8 out of 10, because we have 10 fingers. So 8 out of 10 cats prefer it. So use the pair of 10 where you can. Try to use the pair of 10s, pair of 5s, round up or round down. Don't do 1.5 in 17 if you can, particularly for presenting something on PowerPoint. Just try and not massage them, but try and fit it to a nice appreciable ratio, like 1 in 10, 1 in 20, 1 in 30. It's a nice round number. You're reducing a level of abstraction when people are thinking about things. So the other part of psychology is how you that emotional context of understanding a number, what it means to you. So in that previous slide, it was 8 out of 10 cats preferred it. So that's the same as 2 out of 10 cats refused it, or 1 out of 5 cats refused it, or 20% of cats absolutely hated it. Which do you want to see? Do you want to see 95% of the project completed, or 5% of the project remaining? What's the emotional context you're trying to provide? So if I go to the doctor, he's going to say 9 out of 10 people, John, you're going to be okay. 9 out of 10 people have no problems after this surgery. Okay, fine. I'm with 9 out of 10. He's not going to say 1 in 10 people. Well, a good doctor will say 1 in 10 people will have complications after surgery. The good doctor will say 9 out of 10. Because immediately you say 1 in 10 people will have complications after surgery. You think, oh, it's going to be me. We'll meet the odds again. Okay, if you're a really good doctor, you can say 10% of people will have, or 90% of people have no complications after surgery. Use the abstraction to your advantage. So just try and think of understand the emotional context. But sometimes I've seen, people display stuff like, high value out of 10. Low value to high value. And you just turn it around, just changes how you visualize the report completely. So just think of the emotional context. Is it positive or is it negative? So a lot of people don't tend to think about. So just to go through these things, if anyone's got any questions, I've shown you what the attentive process is. It's a very, you have to think about things. It's very not prone to errors. And you can, it takes a certain amount of mental effort to understand things. The intuitive part is very quick and easy, but it can be prone to biases. This is a very quick understanding. And normally your brain, if it breaks the intuitive process, will send it to the attentive process. Like, for example, when I switched from facial recognition to we had to add up the value to 127. So I'll talk to you about something, how quickly you can count things, how quickly you can realize things, and also the abstraction, where abstraction breaks down, how it can effectively visualize things. It's all, as I say, it's a lot lower than people realize. Okay. Any questions before I continue?
No questions, just lots of chit chat about which doctor you'd prefer, and just an interest really in considering how you use language to get the meaning across. I guess it depends upon who you're selling. Andrew says he's thinking lots. Yeah, the same, Andrew.
There's an interesting experiment that you can prime people with numbers. So this is back in 2019. I went around my office. I gave people one of two pamphlets. One was said, "This is a laptop." Gave them a number. It should cost this laptop. This laptop costs more than £800, and I said this laptop costs less than £1,200. I asked them to pick an estimate, and they roughly, the higher the number was closer to 1,200, and the lower the number, £800. People estimated a lot closer to £800. So you can frame people with large and small numbers. Yeah. So for example, this is a great example. So how many dwarfs are in Snow White? You'd say 7. Then you say, how many countries do you think are in Africa? And that's prompting of 7 will make people estimate lower. If you say something have you seen the film 28 Days Later? How many countries in Africa? They'll estimate higher. It's very strange. It's a very powerful psychological tool.
I had no idea about it. Anthony's telling us 52 countries in South Africa. But I'd never thought that.
Sorry,
yeah, Takimi said when she tried to share KPIs with internally, she tried not to use negative as a way to motivate people.
Yeah.
And then Darren said it again, it depends on who and what you're selling. But it's good to have that understanding. But I had no idea about putting a lower number first and then asking the question, leads to an answer.
Yeah, you're priming people with numbers. It's very, very interesting. It's an important hypnotic trick as well. You can get people to do very certain things. So you've probably seen this before about how to make a report intuitive. So layout, your intuitive process to read from left to right, top to bottom. Other languages may do it differently, like Japanese or Arabic, I think.
Yeah.
So because you're very focused on reading from top to bottom, so put your most important value up in the top left. Firstly, if you want to hide something, put it down the bottom right. You can use it both for good and for evil. But you've probably come with this, I've seen this before. So we want something in the top left. That's the most important real estate. I try not to put logos or titles there. So a title generally goes to the top right, or something, a logo and everything will go down the bottom right. Okay. So a couple of people talk about the order of granularity, about making it intuitive. You're sort of doing one of two things. You're using a tentative process to have a template, and allowing the intuitive process for your eye to scan down it. So you are scanning down it, but it's a nice format, a nice template. You'll be sort of programming you to use. So if you start changing it a little bit, they're going to have to look around where everything is. Okay. So yeah, order of granularity is very powerful, and always have a spark line. Good spark line is worth 1,000 words or DAX visual. Again, another great thing. One of the 9 out of 10 things I used to say was people not ordering their data. Using too many visual colors. Again, adding visual elements adds cognitive burden. Adding colors adds cognitive burden. Your eye will get distracted by powerful colors, or as I see from the bottom, it's very easy to understand. For example, I work for Division 5. Division 5 straight away I can see a lot more easy in relation to the rest of the group, and I can move it to the front as well with a bit of code. I can see in relation to the lead. But ordering goes a long way. Your visual perception will quickly understand the relation of the objects in the data. You can see straight away. It's very intuitive. Okay. Yes, it is the next slide. So I'll change my slides. The impact of colour. Now in psychology, it's what do you see first? How's your vision sort of built over the years? Do you see shape first? Do you see colour? Well, chunk of literature says you see shape first, then colour when you develop, and the other says the opposite. And then some new literature coming out recently that says you develop shape and colour at the same time. You do see colour first, then shape to some degree. So when you're developing as a baby, your eyes aren't fully formed. They're still trying to figure out what's going on. You'll see blurred colours, and then shape will be added. There's some interesting psychological experiments you can do where you'll see shape and colour and shape. But there's still quite a lot of research going on into it even today. So we haven't quite nailed down exactly what it is. But now, so colour is adding a layer of cognitive burden. It's a lot because you're going to try to decipher the colours, and then you're trying to understand the colours in relation to the other colours. So one of the best things you can do to reduce the cognitive burden is to use a monochromatic palette. Like it's easy to see the different shades of grey or blue in relation to the red, amber and green. I find the top one ridiculously hard because I'm colourblind. I'm red-green colourblind. So that can it's 1 in 12 males, 8%, 1 in 12, see, not 8%, and 1 in 200 females. So, I think women carry the gene, but not affected by it, but men are more affected by it. Okay, so, I used to like changing it to a nice monochromatic palette because it's a lot quicker to need to understand the shades of the same color rather than that. It might only be a very small margin, but it's still allowing you to see a little bit quicker, a little bit easier. Okay. And yeah, don't forget, as colorblind people, I am ridiculously colorblind. It's terrible. Never let me paint anything.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing, this fits into Gestalt theory, and Gestalt theory of perception, how you understand shapes and colors. So I've seen this sort of again, time and time again, of the white space is your friend, not your enemy. The white space you want to fill, you don't want to fill. You want to just have your visual and target effectively. So as you can see, the top one, it looks kind of flat, but what you want to see really, mate, well, I'd like to see is the variance. So if you just reduce the visual down, you can quickly see the degree of variance a lot more easy than if you stretch it all out. The white space is an enemy. I see people trying to stretch it, like tessellate all visuals. It's no. Think about what you want to show. Think about how your brain is going to perceive it. How you're going to visualize these things. There's one client I worked for that had a beautiful piece of tessellation. It's absolutely amazing. It looked beautiful, but you had to search across the page to find anything. There's nothing grouped by category or division or set. It's just all over the place. And we asked, why did you choose it? Just because they said literally because it fits on the PowerPoint and looks pretty.
Oh no.
So if you think about the impact of scale, do you want massive, wide, flat columns or bars or something like that? Just reduce it down to something nice and easy to see. It will reduce the amount of cognitive burden that you have.
Mm.
Choose the right visual. I know this is probably apparent to a lot of people, but there's a lot of times where a bit of OCD. I've seen some visuals and I've written into the editor and said, look, you need to do it this way. I know a very ongoing argument with Amateur Photographer magazine, the way they used to show the way the sensors worked, because they show the color map in 3 dimensions and you couldn't see what was happening on one side of the chart. I said, well, what's the point? What's the point of showing it like that? So I said, you want to try and show it like this, and eventually they dropped the visual. I don't know if it's anything I did, but I like to think I made a small impact for a visualization community. But here, I've pulled this out of PC World magazine, and this comes from a PhD thesis that talks about population rise, and it's mixing the visual. And there's a lot of cognitive burden going on there because your brain can't relate to the comparison between the dots and the columns and the line. So I redid it in just a standard column chart. It's a lot easier, a lot quicker to visualize the differences in the population rise from 1975 to 2025. Okay? So always choose the right visual. Think about what you're trying to show, reduce that level of cognitive burden. That's it. Yeah. Cool. If you do want to see some ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous visualizations where people have misdone charts to mislead people, look at Fox News visualization. Just type in Fox News bad visuals and you'll see a load of pie charts that don't add up to 100%. Charts adjusted to make the impact of a trend over time seem less significant. It's amazing. So yeah. So references, further reading. So yeah, if you do want to look at storytelling with data or design visualization guide, I do say storytelling with data is better than Show Me the Numbers. Stephen Few's a bit more technical aspect. They do talk about the same things, but storytelling with data is a lot more accessible. And Cole Naffler does do it's really good on X, used to be called Twitter, and she has monthly storytelling with data competitions, and she'll give a data set and other people want to do these things. But I say it's a really good primer for the various things. And honestly, Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman is an amazing insight into how your brain works. It's not just about risk and bias and things. It's just everything, how you sort of look at the world and how you understand the data you're being shown in front of you, and a little bit of statistics, not a lot, about just pilot performance and stuff like that. It's a really fascinating book in how your brain works. I read it on a train because I was traveling to and from London. I just devoured it because it was an amazing book which unlocked a load of things.
That sounds really interesting. Yeah, I haven't heard of that one. The other two I've got, but I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, it's done a more recent book in the past 3 years about called bias, and how we overbias things and what's the pattern of bias. It's a fascinating read. So
Anthony's read it as well. He said it's very good.
Very good book. Is there any questions?
Any question? There aren't any questions in the chat. No, you haven't rambled on. It's been fascinating. Takini said, really interesting. She loves the psychology and how this is taken into account. If anyone's got any questions, feel free to unmute yourself. John has a question. Darren says, thank you for the refresher. Grenine says, fascinating. Takimi, do you want to unmute yourself and ask the question?
Oh, it's embarrassing, but can I ask you a question? Yes, John, you showed us the last graph. They had 3 different colors.
Yeah.
Isn't it not opposite from what you said? Maybe you want to make it more, like a pale orange, medium orange, and a strong orange or something.
Yes.
No?
So as long as you use one color, that's fine. So you could have a light, medium, dark orange. So if you go to there's an Adobe website, Adobe Color Manager, where it can do monochromatic palettes or complementary colors, which will complement your palette. So but it's as long as I chose grey and blue because I'm not colorblind on grey and blue. But if you want to show, it has to have more. I guess you can have 5 sort of range colors. So you can have a very light orange, medium orange, dark orange, very dark orange. But just to show you that it's just that method you use. Just keep it consistent. But I chose grey and blue because I'm not colorblind in grey and blue.
Thank you.
Not a problem.
It definitely makes it pop up when it's all grey, and then you just have an accent colour in there. Then that makes things. Anthony said another useful book is Practical Charts by Nicholas Disbarrett.
I've not read that one.
I
love that one.
And Paul, who's very good at logistics and visualization of location data. He says that in maps, using different colours for data points is better understood.
Yeah. And a colleague of mine who worked at Avanade Prathi, she talked about Gestalt theory, about using shape and colour.
Yeah.
You can have a variety of shapes and colours, and then your eye will be drawn. For that, came to the dots. There's another experiment where there's some red dots and some blue dots, and it shows how quickly you count the red ones. So it's really pushing your intuitive process to some degree, that you can have 3 red dots in a mixture of 11 blue dots, and your brain will still count the red dots.
Yeah.
But you have to be primed to say count the red. So you sort of primed. Okay, this is the colour I'm looking for. Bang. Okay, I can count 3. But it's very fascinating how you can prime yourself and also leverage your intuitive process a little bit. Fascinating.
I guess you could use that in life, though, can't you? If you want, if you want something, then you can, manipulate your conversation with
Darren Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah, Darren Brown does some. If you look at his TV series and how he approaches things and manipulates people with the power of language and numbers, it's quite amazing. So yeah, you can use it for good or evil. Please use it for good.
Yeah. And Takimi said she attended a webinar by Anne Lima, and she was saying the same advice as you. And Andrew said, any reference material recommendations on choosing colours?
I do have chat. There's one on Medium about choosing colours, clarity, and aesthetics and data visualization, which is very good. Teams it will work. And what's the other one? There's one for. I haven't got it to me. There's one for. I did have one. Oh, it'll be on my my GitHub report visualization page. Getting away from. Link. Yeah, it's. Oops. There's one for what people ask. Is there something beyond blue and green? Sorry. Blue and pink for male and female. And there's a very good article which I always recommend for people to look at if you want to get away from that kind of cultural bias for colours for gender. My repository.
Making it simple for your message to be understood, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, no, where are we?
Henrique's put in colorbrewer2.org. And some of the themes tools are really helpful as well in helping you choose. I know Enterprise DNA has got one that, you know, shows you different sets of the colour. And Power BI Tips have got a great themes chooser as well.
Yes, they have, yeah. Why doesn't my Control C work on my Mac? Oh, dear. Oh, okay.
I think, right, yeah, Takimi, it depends, doesn't it? If you want people to, whether you want them to see 2 in 10 and make it more distinguishable than 20%.
It's not letting me copy one.
Colorbrewer.2.
There you go. Oh, I can see.
AnthonyCanva.com, colours, colour wheel.
So in my GitHub, there's a page. Yeah, the Adobe Color Wheel is really good. Color helpers, there's Color Create, HTML colors, Color Guide, and to visualize gender. They're in the colors part of the section. So yeah, I've looked there. Some good links for there. Yeah, enjoy.
Brilliant.
Yeah, lost you. Sorry. There you go. Teams is just being a pain.
Mine was being a pain getting in today. It just took forever. It's just sometimes you just expect things to work, don't you? Data Savvy. That's useful. Oh, thank you, Maya.
Yeah.
My colour space.
It's not
the squint website. Test. That looks interesting, Anthony. The squint test.
I think it's on Medium, but there's a good, if you look at the BBC visualizations, because they use quite a lot, the R packages to visualize data on their web pages. And they have a very good design guide, which they open source. So if you look at the BBC R visualization design guide, that's another good place to start. So looking to see how other organizations do it.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Oh, John, that was really interesting. Thank you. And what I will try to do is to gather up all of the URLs. And mind you, we do have Takimi, who is usually very, very good at doing a lovely summary for us in on LinkedIn. But there's just so much to learn and to understand, which is, you know, a brilliant thing to be part of. You didn't collect them today, Takimi. I will do it. I will do it. The YouTube won't be on until Friday, I'm afraid, because I'm not at home at the moment, so I don't have access to all my tools to download and get it into YouTube. But I will have it there for you on Friday. Any last questions before we say a massive thank you to John for making us think? Yes, the chat is available. I'll go through and pull them out, Christian. Thank you.
The slides will be on my GitHub by tomorrow, so just got to pop on GitHub. Have a look.
Lovely. Okay. Thank you. And any last questions before we go? And just say a massive, massive thank you to John for helping us understand more about trying to make our brains and our users' brains not work quite so hard to get the message across.
I just realised. Sorry, one last thing. It's bat of the ball costs £1.10. The ball costs £1 more than the bat. How much is the ball? And it's 5p. There you go. I did remember.
So it's £1. It's £1.10.
£1.10. Yeah. So bat of the ball is £1.10.
Yeah.
And the bat £1 more than the ball. How much is the ball? It's 5p. Your intuitive process will go for the 10p.
Yeah.
If not, it's 1p. 5p. Sorry. There you go. I know I'll get there somewhere.
Why is it?
Because if the ball's 5p, then the bat's £1 5p. So 5p take away £1.5 is what? Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I see. Oh. You can tell it's the end of the day and I'm on holiday, can't you?
I've not had enough coffee today, or too much.
Yeah, yeah, that has an impact as well. So thank you very much, everyone, and thank you, John. Any last questions before we go? Thank you, Christian, and thank you everyone for joining us. No, just lots of claps and loves and thank you. So next week we were going to have another session, but cocktail time for Sue. It's wine, Darren. It's a glass of wine. I did a Vienna Marathon was last week, so that was being very, very sensible. This week I'm away and there is some running, but not quite so much. It's drinking beautiful Spanish wine. So having holidays, which is rather nice. But we will be back next week. But if anyone is interested and wants to cut the teeth and have their first go at presenting, please reach out to me. No sangria. Please reach out to me, and I'm very happy to sort of go through it with you and practice and give you some help and support. We did it with Anthony, didn't we? And he's gone on to great things. So please, at the moment, next week is absolutely empty. We will have someone. I'll reach out and get somebody, but I'm going to give it a couple of days. So if anyone is interested, then do let us know. Yeah, 26.2 and Andrew in 1 hour, 3 hours 58. So I was quite pleased it was sub 4, but it was quite hard. So Takimi, if you're interested, or Green, I know there's a few of you out there that haven't presented yet and might be interested. So I'll give it a couple of days and then see if you're interested. You are, Takimi. You are. So yes, anyone that's interested in talking, please reach out to me and we can have a practice run. But if not, then I will find someone else for next week and pop it in LinkedIn. But anyone that's interested, do let me know, because it's nice to give people a starting point. Otherwise, it might be me doing real-time analytics, so which is something I'm quite interested in. I have to do the last bit for data relay. I've submitted 2 talks, but I wouldn't mind doing one on real-time analytics. Oh, you can come to your SQL Bits session if needed. That would be quite nice, Christian. I shall reach out to you about that because I saw that and it was very good. So huge thank you, John. I saw your session last year at SQL Bits in 2023 and it really stuck with me as one of the main ones. Yeah. So a huge thank you, everyone. And have a great rest of the day. And I'll stop presenting. If anyone wants to chat or anything, then any questions, pop it in the chat. But in the rest, have a lovely, lovely rest of the evening. And I'll stop recording now. Take care. Bye. Stop recording.
Bye, everyone, and thank you.